My name is Ian Tate. I'm the director of Think Events London, and I'm going to be your MC for today, which is going to be amazing because cybersecurity, very interested in, because I have a major problem remembering passwords and anything, but it's so important as we live in this digital world that we know exactly what we're doing and how to protect ourselves. Today's session will last probably about an hour, and we'll take all questions at the end, but we do know our first speaker, George, he does have to leave us. So once George has done his presentation, we're going to open it up to some questions, and then we're going to go back to the rest of the speakers. So before we get on our way, I want you all to sit back, relax, get your pads and paper out, take notes, ask questions. You can put some little questions in chat and we will take those later on. But I want to introduce you to Nadia, who is the Training and Development Officer at Peabody, and really, really good. So listen to Nadia, get all your information. I know I say it all the time, I'm like a broken record, but it is a lovely Peabody family. So over to you, Nadia.
Thank you, and thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all virtually. It is great to see so many people logging in today and wanting to find out more about cybersecurity. So we've got three fantastic guest speakers, and I'm sure you'll enjoy their presentations. But before we pass it on to them, I just want to steal a couple of minutes to tell you a little bit more about Peabody and the work that we do at the Peabody Community Foundation. So Peabody is one of the oldest and largest housing association in London, and we are also about to merge with another large housing association. So we're really about to become even larger and more present in London and the Southeast. Peabody also has a charity side, a charity arm called Peabody Community Foundation, and I personally work for the foundation. And my team, the team I'm part of, is called Economic Inclusion Team. As the name suggests, Peabody Community Foundation, we really try to work with and for our communities of Peabody residents, but also local customers. And the vision is to really help build communities that are healthier, wealthier, and happier. And the ways we try to do this are so many and multiple. So we've got lots of services, projects, and initiatives. But just to give you some examples of the work that the team I'm part of, the Economic Inclusion Team, do is we create and promote free training opportunities for people to learn new skill, upskill, and consequently access better jobs or earn more money. We also have dedicated colleagues that can help Peabody residents with employment support. It's a completely free and personalized one-to-one support that they can provide. And also, again, for Peabody residents, if you want to start a business or become self-employed, you can also receive that kind of support. So these are just examples. And obviously the Peabody Hot Topics sessions are part of our training offer. So what we did is we've identified important topics, but also emerging careers and growth sectors. And through these free, completely free, open to everyone online sessions, we want to give you some introductory information, a little bit of, again, as I said, introductory notions on how to access these pathways and learn more about them. So that's it for myself. Thank you so much to our three guest speakers of today. Thank you to Ian and everyone at Think Events. And also thank you to literally everyone that spent a couple of minutes to register and attend today's session. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nadia. And as Nadia said, you know, these are free sessions. Please tell friends, business owners, whoever you like, to come and join these sessions because they are free, hosted by Peabody. Amazing. And Nadia will put all the information about what's happening today on an email to you all later on once we finish these sessions. As Nadia said, we have three fantastic speakers for you today. We've got George, Ross, and Marie, all talking to us about cybersecurity and what we should and shouldn't be doing. So before I hand over to George, just tell you a little bit. George is works for the University of London South Bank, or London South Bank University, and is a corporate lecturer there. George has done many things in his time, and looking at, which I'm quite interested in, George, is this machine learning consultant. You've got to tell me a bit more about that because I was confused. But George is teaching about networking, data science, and security. So George, over to you.
Hi guys, everyone. How's it going? Good. Oh, you could hear me. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, no
Are
problem.
you okay if I share my screen now? One sec. So yeah, I guess this session is all about cybersecurity. So basically, the main thing is all about cybersecurity. And when I was first contacted, I was thinking, how can I approach this? And I realized that again, we're working with people who are coming from diverse backgrounds, and cybersecurity doesn't discriminate. It affects everyone. So far as you're engaging with technology, you would one way engage with some bits of cybersecurity, whether you know it or not. Just a brief about my background. Um, like Ian mentioned earlier on, so I work with London Southwark University as a lecturer, so doing not just university lecturing, also lecturing for other corporate organizations that we have partnerships with. And I teach on various modules, so like networking, data science, DevOps, and the others. I've done a lot around system migration with companies in London over the past 6 years, and worked with a company in London under the ESF program to help them build a system using machine learning. So a headset that recommends songs based on how you feel. And yeah, like I mentioned, as part of what we do in the uni, we also have a project called Dagile, which tries to bridge the gap between technical roles and non-technical roles. So people who would want to switch, even though they have bits and pieces of IT. So yeah, the question is, since this is about cybersecurity, I always want to throw this question to everyone. So what do we think cybersecurity is? Just maybe 1 minute. What do we think? Not a definition, but what comes in mind when you hear cybersecurity?
If anyone wants to unmute and ask the question, then absolutely fine, or answer the question rather, then fine.
Or maybe if you're looking at the picture, what do you think cybersecurity is about? Just maybe a word.
We've got protecting passwords.
Amazing.
Trying to steal your data.
Take one more. Yeah. So
scams.
Scams. All right. Sure. So yeah, passwords. Whoever said that got that right. Yeah. Data loss. Yeah. Lawsuits. So anytime I hear cybersecurity, I think about passwords, I think about data loss, I think about lawsuits, and also protection in general, and hacking. These are terms that we normally hear and may have seen somewhere on news. I think even yesterday I heard something around Russia and Ukraine with bits and pieces of cybersecurity here and there, which means it could be anywhere. So yeah, it goes beyond just protection and data and all that. There's also something to do with confidentiality, vulnerability, data protection, spam, lawsuits, privacy, and money as well. So banking, technology, viruses, so many stuff. So when we hear cybersecurity, sometimes you hear people also refer to it as information technology security. So basically security that comes with using technology. And when we're looking at security, we're looking at whether or not someone has the, say, permission to access some information, or maybe change some information, or maybe delete your information, or even destroy your information. It's all about permission. And the question is, what do we need to secure? What needs to be secured? So when we talk about security, we're looking at every aspect of our lives has to be secure. Sometimes when I say every aspect, people confuse it. And it's just because looking at security, it may not be technology directly. It may also be your personal, say, you as a person. There was one scenario where a family went out to, I think, a restaurant, and it was just based on a picture, they gave out too much information, and once they go home, they realized something had happened in their homes. And so security doesn't just limit, we wouldn't want to limit security to just technology. It's also about we as people using technology. So If we want to secure stuff, I think we should be thinking around our devices, we as users, our data, our bank details, applications that we use, the services that we engage with, and the network we find ourselves on. So again, if we're saying that technology is all about doing stuff online and all that, what are some of the stuff we do online? So this will be a question for everyone. So what are some of the stuff we do online? Just one or two. Yeah. Email, we work online, shopping, yeah, social media. And so yeah, people even play games online. Basically, anytime we go online, we one way or the other leave footprints. So you end up leaving traces of what we do online. So it could be a picture, it could be just a tweet, it could be a location which you turned on when you were sharing a picture. And these are very, very vital information for us and also for the bad guys. What I'll say is, so far as we stay online, we need to be asking ourselves questions around whether we are safe. And are we safe? How would you know whether you're safe? There's so many questions you would want to ask yourself if you want to know whether you're safe. I think the first question is, what are some of the stuff that make us vulnerable? Do you have the same password for multiple accounts? Yeah, I can see him shaking his head. When was the last time you changed your password? So if you want to know whether you're safe, these are some of the questions you would want to ask yourself. And is your password strong? And are you sharing your password? How are you buying stuff online? So these are questions. So do you know where the email is coming from? So these are questions you would want to ask yourself. So let's start with what are some of the vulnerabilities we have online? Anyone? What are some of our vulnerabilities? So when we talk about vulnerabilities, we're talking about weaknesses. What do we do online that makes us weak or that brings out some weakness in us? Fake websites. Okay. So yeah, I'll address the fake websites. For me, I wouldn't say fake website. It's just websites because if you look at websites, most websites these days are gathering information, and sometimes it may not be the problem, may not be coming from those websites directly. It's not see they're bad websites. It's just the fact that maybe they don't have good security or the security is not strong enough. And for that reason, bad guys are able to get onto their systems and be getting some information or be pretending like they are the good guys and they could do anything with that. So yes, when you say fake website, I would take it from that angle. It's so hard these days to have multiple passwords, and as there are so many things to log into. Okay, so yes, I'll address that. That's a good one. So passwords are, so like we always say, you need to have a password for stuff. Also, you need to have a strong password. And sometimes our strong password, what we call strong passwords, are password that we don't really remember. And so most of the time you realize that people are prompted to change their passwords. But think about it, you have like 10, 15 platforms that you subscribe to or you register to. And how are you able to manage it? That's what we call a password manager. So it's just like, it's a software, but logically, we're talking about something like a box, which is holding all your passwords, and all you have to remember is the key to that box. And anytime you use that box, you just go in there, click on the box, the particular platform, and say, I would want to visit this platform. Can you remember the password? And you use that password. So you could go around the number of passwords you have by using a password manager. Okay, so hackers use Google Chrome, save password. Yes. So what I always advise people is that there's no point saving your passwords in the browser. Again, that's why there is a password manager. So you would want to say subscribe or get onto a proper password manager. I'm sure at the end of the session, I would recommend a few of them. And by no chance am I say advertising any password manager. And feel free if you think you know something stronger. And using public Wi-Fi. So how do you know? Okay, so using public Wi-Fi's, apart from the fact that bad guys can get on the Wi-Fi, which is open to everyone, you could also be a target, because sometimes public Wi-Fi's also are able to trace your movement. So be careful when you join in public Wi-Fi as well. Impersonations comes, yes. So that's where phishing and all these ones comes in. Yeah. So again, these are some of the things that would make you weak. Also, you need to make sure you're changing your password regularly. So anytime you're not changing your passwords, as these days people are recommending 3 months for changing passwords. I think it's possible to do 3 months, but you need to have a system to be changing your password, and the password shouldn't be the same for multiple accounts, because then there's this saying that I have, you need to break the chain. So basically you have the same password for multiple accounts. It means there's a chain. And if you don't break it, if you don't change any of them, it means once they get onto one particular account, they are able to get into other accounts. So you break the chain by, first of all, having different passwords, or for some cases, people may still have the same password. You break the chain if you change in your passwords regularly, because then the bad guy wouldn't be able to get onto any of your platforms. Having a strong password, do we have strong passwords? It's difficult to tell these days, because these days people are using their date of birth, they're using the names of their pets as passwords. I just saw a study which was recommending that people use a mix of numbers and special characters. It's easy to create a strong password. I'm not saying this should be the norm, but for example, if you want to use an S, you could use the $sign. You could use something which is a bit different. If you want to use an E, you could use the euro sign. You could use maybe the pound sign. But then again, when you're doing that, you need to be thinking about whether or not that password, even in plain text, is easy for someone to type in. So you need to think about all these things, but it's not difficult to come up with a password. And passwords are supposed to be long enough. So some people recommend around 12 to 15 characters, but I would say it depends. It depends on how many passwords, how many characters you want to set it for. But I think 12 to 15 is good enough, because it's not just about the length, it's also about how strong your password is in terms of whether you have special characters using upper and lower cases. These are all factors that go into what a strong password may be. Are you sharing your passwords? I asked one person the last time whether they were sharing their password, and the answer was no. But after a few minutes having a conversation with them, I noticed that they were sharing the password. I asked them, are you really not sharing your password? At that point, the person was confused, but think about it. You're sharing your Netflix. And if you're sharing your Netflix, you're sharing your password, assuming you have the same password for multiple accounts. That means you're sharing your password. At that point, maybe you were thinking you were sharing your password for only Netflix. But again, your password for Netflix was the same password for Facebook. So if you're having the same password for Facebook and Netflix, and you're sharing for Netflix, it means you're sharing for Facebook as well. All right. So just a brief about what I would consider a threat for anyone who is using something online. So a threat is just something that has the potential. It could be an event, it could be a person, anything that has the potential to cause harm, or some form of negative impact to you. And basically, it may be causing harm to you directly, or it may be causing harm to your organization. So whether or not we like it, sometimes our actions may have a direct consequence for our organizations that we work for. So that's the reason why some organizations will not allow people to be doing Facebook at work, because it may be causing some harm to them as well. So what would we consider a threat? So malwares can be considered as threats. So when we say malware can be broken down into 2 parts. So the mal being bad, and the ware is just a software. So any bad software can be considered as a threat to you. We do have phishing. I saw that someone mentioned that spoofing and all that. So phishing is, just think about fish in general sense, you replacing the PH with an F. So phishing is just like getting fish from maybe a source of water. And phishing is similar. So where bad guys pretend using some means to get information from you. They throw in a bait, and then if you're not lucky, you fall victim. It's happened so many times. Recently, you hear a lot of people talking about home is the HMRC. So people call you pretending to be coming from HMRC. That's some form of phishing. They would want to get some information from you. And there is also a different level of phishing, which is called a spear phishing, where it's mostly targeting people of higher levels in terms of the organizational structure. So they're targeting people like the CEO, the CTO, people that have access to some form of sensitive information or access to some infrastructure that would be holding the organization. There is also ransomware, just also like malware. Ransomware it can be a type of malware where some bad guy would use a software to hijack your information and require you to pay some form of ransom. It could be in the form of cash. And these days they're using cryptocurrency because it's difficult for people to trace it. So sometimes when you get people asking you for stuff like that, you need to be careful. And then if you would have to report it, you report it. There is also what we refer to as denial of service. So when, say, a true owner is denied from, or somebody who has genuine access to a platform or a system or data has been denied the access to the data. Sometimes it's just simple as targeting a particular system. So the bad guy will target a particular system so many times that the system, based on how it was configured, would decide not to respond because they may find those activities as being dodgy. So the next time a good person tries to get onto that system, it would say no because it's been seen lots and lots of attacks coming to it. So malware, like I mentioned, is just a bad software, and these softwares can cause harm to your system. So basically, they can block you from accessing your resources. They can damage the system. They can also gather sensitive information from your system. And how do these malwares come onto our system? Sometimes it's just as simple as downloading or clicking on a file, or maybe clicking on a link in an email or something. So you need to be sure where the email is coming from and whether or not you trust the source of that information. Again, phishing, as I mentioned earlier on, is just where a bad guy tries to access your information using some means. I'll leave these slides with Nadia and then you could get that. So yeah. All right. The problem with security is a matter of trust. It starts with trust. So basically, a bad guy would want you to trust them. And if you fall victim and you trust them, then you release sensitive information to them. So they could be giving you lots and lots of hope that they're not doing anything bad with your stuff. For example, if you're not lucky, they even mention your full name or even where you're working and all that. They give you that kind of assurance that they are genuine people. But always you'd have to be careful because it starts with trust. So how are we supposed to be thinking about cybersecurity if we would want to stay safe or be cyber aware? I think there are three main factors that any person would want to consider when they want to stay safe online. The first one would be confidentiality. The second one will be integrity. And the last one will be availability. If you check the boxes for at least these three concepts, then I believe you're on the right ladder for being secure. So when we talk about confidentiality, we're looking at act of keeping information safe or secure. Basically, it's just like when we started earlier on, when I mentioned what cybersecurity was, people were saying passwords. So making sure that you have proper passwords, making sure that your passwords are not the same for multiple accounts. This is a way that you could ensure that some of your information are safe. It doesn't end there. There's also what we call encryption and hashing. These are also ways for you to ensure that your information is confidential enough. So integrity is just, so when we mentioned security, I mentioned that security is also about making sure that people are not changing your information, and that's where integrity comes in. So anytime someone has some information that tampers with your information or tampers with a system, we're saying that that information or that system has been compromised, or the system's integrity has been violated. So you would want to make sure you put systems in place. Again, for integrity, you're looking at things around, are you sending information to the genuine people? Are you getting it from the genuine source? Has it been tampered with? How do you know it's been tampered with? There's what we call hashing. So you would want to make sure that the hash code first. Some of these things, if you go on like secure website, these have been taken care of, but also you need to make sure that you're going on secure website in order for you to stay safe around these technology. There is also the concept of availability. If your data or your system you have access to those information and no one is having the same access, it means that you kind of head into some form of security. And also if, let's say, for example, you lose your information, this is what I always say to people. The fact that somebody promises that they will release your information to you after you pay some ransom doesn't necessarily mean that they will release it. Assuming they release you a copy, how sure are you that they don't have a copy? So most of the time, what I tell people is just report it, change your passwords to those accounts, and make sure you replacing some of your content or having strong, say, implementations for your systems as well. Cybersecurity, there's no endpoint for cybersecurity. You can never say you secure. It's a continuous effort and it has to be done regularly. That's why things like changing your password regularly is so important. It doesn't, there's no finality. You cannot say I'm secure. You need to constantly be on top of your game as well. So yeah, what should we do about it? I think you should make sure you're changing your passwords. You should make sure you're visiting websites that having that symbol that's saying secure. And you should make sure that you're not sharing your account with people. You should make sure that your passwords are not the names of your pets that you post in, even on Facebook and other platforms. Yeah. How are these companies or these, say, how is cybersecurity affecting organizations? So in front of me, you have like a chat, and some companies are being fined, and it's just because they're losing data, they're not securing their information, and also because people are not patronizing their systems again because their platforms are not safe. There's been a series of platforms where people realize that their say their accounts had been hacked, and because of that, they are not engaging on those platforms. These companies are losing lots and lots of money. In this chart, you could see, say, how much people are losing from various sectors of our economies. So yes, cybersecurity is a big thing out there, and it requires a constant effort from all of us to get it sorted. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you, George. That was mind-boggling. There's so much to information there. And I'm sure everybody in the audience have jotted down some notes, and you know, this whole thing about passwords, which come up again and again and again, as I said, you know, world's worst me, passwords, unbelievable. George has to go, but has anyone got any quick questions they would like to ask George? So I will take one question. If anyone wants to unmute and ask, please do it now before we move on. Anybody?
Yep.
Oh, who's that?
Hi,
If
my
you can
name
say
is,
your name.
Yeah, my name is Imad Megahid, and I'm a Peabody resident. And I have experience very shortly. I've experienced in IT in a different fields, but master of all. Basically, like I know so many areas, but I'm not a master of none of them. I would like to get into cybersecurity as a consultant. What will be the beginning step if I wanted to take that step towards it?
Did you say you've done bits and pieces of IT?
Well, basically, I did the degree in business and I studied the pre-master in IT. So I understand as much as programming, networking. I've done a Cisco program. So I understand the different layers of networking and how the data travels across and how cybersecurity works and how attackers really come in from which angle and what kind of technique they do, because I'm kind of passionate about that. However, it's the beginning thread to get into as a cybersecurity consultant. So I understand you need to be an all-rounder, so you need to understand how to write script like programming. You need to understand how the information travels from one end until it gets to the other side, because that's how cyber attackers will take advantage of that trip, and they understand where the weak point is, and then they will basically target it and get it that way. So I'm not naive totally. I understand also hardware in a sense of basically motherboard and the structure of the motherboard and how the components work together and the relationship between hard drives and processors, and how also they take advantage of that. For example, I used to basically work on repairing laptops, and I will get customers coming to me where somebody basically sent them a ransom virus, and they block all the content, which is thousands and thousands of files that they've had, and they demand the money from them to remove and to decrypt this kind of ransom virus. It's so hard because you end up losing data if you try and use different software and you destroy the data. So what would be your advice for somebody like myself who want to go into cybersecurity as a consultant? What do I do?
Ahmad, can we let George answer the question?
Yeah, sure, man.
I know you've got loads of experience there, but let him answer the question.
Yeah, nice one.
Thanks very much. So what I would say is, when we say cybersecurity is not just one career role. There's a lot of roles under cybersecurity. So it depends on where you would want to take it. There is even information security. There is cybersecurity consultant. There's data protection. There is network security engineering. There penetration testers and all that. So it depends on which role you would want to take it from. But as a roadmap, I believe since you have some form of network background, you could start from going into the network phase, so where you do maybe network security, and then from there you could move into other aspects of security as well, because it's really broad, and you would have to start from somewhere. If it's someone who had no technical background, I would say you would want to do maybe some of the CompTIA courses, because things around there are courses like CISSP and all the others. Some of them are a bit higher for a beginner, but for yourself, you have some kind of technical background. So I think the best idea will be for you to start from your network security role. So you could work towards that because you already understand networking.
Just a final point quickly, is Cisco still going to continue to exist for a long time ahead? Because Cisco seems to have a very good security track and platform.
Sure. So, for example, myself, I'm a Cisco certified 3-time CCNP, so I have the security as well. Yes, Cisco is the market leader. I start to be corrected, but yes, the market leader around that area. And so they're not going anywhere soon. So if you think you want to go the Cisco route, I think, yes, it's possible. Maybe get a CCNA, and then from there you look into a CCNP or maybe a security track, or do a CCNA and then maybe do security plus. It's up to you how you want to take it.
Fantastic. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you very much. George, thank you for your presentation. It was amazing. I know you've got to go, so I'm going to clap for you. I'm sure everyone else will do. Right, I'm going to move on swiftly to Ross, who works for Barclays Bank in Digital Eagles and is an engagement manager. Now, Ross is quite passionate about digital safety, fraud, scams, and he's also a media spokesperson for Barclays. I'm not going to tell you how long Ross has worked for Barclays, but it's many a years. So Ross, over to you.
Lovely, thank you, Ian. So yeah, thanks for inviting me to today's event. Real privilege to come and speak to you all. I think Ian's kindly going to move my slides on for me, which is great. So yeah, I guess first of all, I'm going to come at cybersecurity from a slightly different angle, probably more from the point of view of sort of the career journey I've been on, and more, I guess, of an education and awareness sort of theme. So first of all, I'll just give you a sort of brief introduction. My current role, as Ian kindly said, is engagement manager for Digital Eagles. If you haven't come across Digital Eagles already, then essentially we are a program within Barclays who help provide education, knowledge, content for both our colleagues, our customers, people in local communities, such as Peabody, in order to enhance people's digital skills across a number of digital topics. So currently I really grow, my role is to grow the reach that we have of our program and make sure that people can benefit from all of our great content and the platforms that we offer, all which is free as well, I must add. So yes, nearly 20 years in Barclays for me. So life's been quite kind to me, but I've done various roles. I started off as a cashier in the bank nearly 20 years ago, and then worked through different roles within our branch network, all the way up to management. But I guess for me, what happened was Barclays introduced a lot of technology, like other companies, in particular the likes of mobile banking, online banking, technology in our branches. And that really gave me a keen interest to understand more. And I guess always had lots of interest in technology, fascinated by cybercrime and cybersecurity. So that really was the start of my journey. I'll just mention the two photos on the right for my introduction. I thought, as we're talking about potential careers in cybersecurity, 4 years ago, I took my eldest boy, William, up to Barclays head office, which was a great experience for him. And I guess the reason I mention is I think if you can give people an experience, even of a young age, about what it is to work in an organisation, it really opens up their eyes to the opportunities that are out there. So moving on to the next slide, please, Ian. I'm just going to touch on, I guess, yes, my experience, some of the things that I've seen, that I've experienced and I've come across whilst doing my various roles. So first of all, by working on the front line a few years ago now in that branch network, I saw firsthand the impact that cybercrime and specifically fraud and scams, what impact that could have on people. A lot of us will just think about straight away the financial impact, but what I saw was certainly the physical and I guess most worryingly, the mental impact that fraud and scams have on people. And some of the stories, I guess, were pretty hard to hear and understand what people have been through. So this really gave me the motivation to understand more about the subject and the role that I thought I could play to help both people within Barclays, but also outside of our organisation as well. So alongside my day job to grow the Digital Eagles programme, I've done various things in order to immerse myself in cybersecurity. I've created content, I've delivered presentations, but I've also supported on some large campaigns on the likes of cyber, fraud and scams, which I've really benefited from because that's really helped grow my knowledge. So not necessarily doing a qualification. I can't hold my hand up and say I have, a string of qualifications and, lots of work experience, but I think I've gained experience by being involved in other activity linked to the subject. So within Digital Eagles, we, as I say, mainly focus on education and awareness around this topic and various other digital topics that are also important. But I've sort of grown my network, I guess, outside of the bank. And this has involved collaborating with other organisations, because one of the things you'll certainly hear a lot of is that we can't solve the likes of cybercrime and we can't have strong cybersecurity mechanisms in place unless we collaborate with others. So I've done a lot of that over my time. I've worked with the likes of the Met Police, City of London Police, the National Cyber Security Centre, but also UK Finance. And I guess this is just, again, broadened my knowledge to understand the importance of cybersecurity. And then due to my passion and the activity, this has led to an opportunity for me to become a media spokesperson within Barclays on specifically the topic of digital safety, fraud and scams. So through the training I had, I've been able to talk to the media both face to face. So I've had experience on BBC News, Sky News, talking on radio, featuring in press releases. And as much as that was pretty scary at the time, it's really helped me develop skills in other ways. So talking to senior stakeholders, understanding what other organisations are doing and the role that we play. And it's also great to raise your profile, really good for the likes of a large organisation to grow their reputation. So that was probably a good example of where other development opportunities have come about through working in that field. And then moving on to the next slide, Ian, I thought I would just pose the question as we're talking about what is a hot topic. So why is cybersecurity a hot topic? I think people could answer this in various ways, but I'll give you some of my take on the question. I think certainly something that we'll all be aware of, certainly through the pandemic, is that technology will continue to evolve and develop, and we'll have an increased reliance on how we use technology, both in our personal lives and in our work life. And simply because it does make our lives much easier. Yes, we may have some frustrations, but the more we use technology, the more things are simplified, they're more automated, there's less chance of things going wrong. However, that does make us vulnerable potentially to criminals who look to take advantage of technology and target us to access our information. One of the key things that I took notice of was back in 2018, in May, new data protection laws came along. And this changed, I guess, the goalpost in terms of how organizations have to think about managing their data, their information, their network. So they can't afford to be relaxed and ignore, how you protect things like your network, your intellectual property, your customer data. Otherwise, you're going to be at risk of being an easy target for criminals. And this could lead to things like big reputational damage. We've seen examples, I won't name them, but there's lots out there where we've seen companies targeted. And then unfortunately, because they haven't got the robust procedures in place and may not have the skilled people, it means that they've then fallen foul to these cyber criminals who've targeted them because maybe they were an easy target. So certainly what we can say is that this has naturally created opportunities for people to work within organizations to have the necessary skills in order to protect the organization. So that means there's certainly opportunity out there. There's certainly qualifications, as George has already mentioned, answering the previous question. There's lots that you can do if you're interested in the subject in order to gain the knowledge, experience, in order to enter this part of the industry. So computer science is an obvious one. People are doing degrees, qualifications in computer science. Information technology, both of those are a great place to start. But as people are saying a lot these days, work experience will go a long way, and you'll gain first-hand experience on the job experience of what those job roles might involve. And it might help you decide what type of career path you want to take. George has also already mentioned there are so many different fields within cybersecurity. So it might be education awareness, which we offer. It might be the penetration testers, the analysts, the people who are monitoring the networks. There is so much involved in cybersecurity now. So moving on to the next slide, I think the key message I want to give here is it really is everybody's responsibility. So whether you're just generally interested in protecting yourself or going into a career in cybersecurity, it definitely is everybody's responsibility. It's no longer this niche sort of subject where people just consider that the IT manager within the organization or senior leaders will take full responsibility. Because of the way that we work now, the hybrid way we work from home and perhaps also going into the office, all of us have to take it seriously. So we all have a role to play, whether we're taking a career or whether we just got an interest in protecting our own information or the organization we work in. And then useful resources. I'll finally just come on to these. So within Barclays, within our particular program, Digital Eagles, we have a website which is part of the Barclays main website. If you were to search just Barclays Digital Eagles, you'll find a whole host of information about our program, what we offer, lots of great content. In particular, what we offer to everybody free of charge, which you can find on the web, is Digital Wings. So for any digital topic you may be interested in, and we'll keep adding more content, more interactive content to this platform. This is a place to go where you'll find a number of digital topics, lots of different modules. There are quick quizzes you can take, and there are videos you can watch. There are blogs that you can read. And in particular, we do focus on fraud, scams, cybersecurity, cyber that relates to specifically businesses. So I guess whatever your interest is in the subject, you will find information here. But I would certainly recommend the National Cybersecurity Centre website. This is linked very much to the government and the work that goes on at GCHQ. And there's lots of other great websites out there. If you want to show interest in, certain parts of cybersecurity, fraud and scams, you've got Action Fraud, you've got Take 5. there are a whole host of trusted websites out there that I would recommend. And feel free to reach out to me if there's any more that you're looking for. Then I'll be more than happy to share those with you. But conscious of time, I guess that's my angle on cybersecurity. Back to you, Ian.
Brilliant, Ross. Thank you so much for that. That's really interesting. It's quite, you know, as you say, protecting your information and that kind of that mental impact that it will have through cybersecurity, which is quite traumatic if it happens to you and your data's been leaked. You know, you're all in a mess. You don't know what you're doing next. So, I mean, I would say definitely take Ross up, send him an email, go onto some of these digital eagles platforms, have a look. I went to a couple of your networking events with Shireen Qureshi a long time ago, and very, very fascinating, really, really good. Anyway, as you say, Ross, thank you so much. We're conscious of time, and we are going to have a quick Q&A session after we've heard from Marie, who's the Information Security Officer at Peabody. Now, Marie is an ex-police detective, my mum, and ex-database administrator, and currently, as we say, the security officer at Peabody. Marie, over to you.
Hi, yes, thanks for inviting me along to speak today. I do have a presentation, so let's see if I can get that to work. So hopefully you have that on your screen now. So yeah, Marie Jeffrey, Information Security Officer.
No, we haven't got it on the
Peabody.
screen yet. We haven't got it on the screen yet.
You don't have it? Oh.
I didn't see it too.
There we go. Is that working now?
Sorry, Marie, I can't see it. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, I think
Starting now. Brilliant. Thank you.
yeah, it's good.
Oh, there was a slight delay there. So yeah, my relevant career history, because I was 26 when I joined British Transport Police as a police officer. Before that, I did, like Ian said, some database administration. I did do a degree in IT, but I finished that degree in 1999. And I can tell you now, what I learned in 1999 is not that relevant to today. Things have moved on rather swiftly. So after 3 years of uniform policing, I decided that walking the beat was no longer for me and became a detective in 2009. When I was a detective, dealt with all the stuff you'd expect a detective to do. So robbery, sexual offences, drugs, serious violence, and very little to do with cyber other than having to look at downloads of people's mobile phones to get evidence from them. I then, in 2017, became an investigator at the National Cybercrime Unit in the National Crime Agency. So there I was responsible for investigating and building cases to prosecute perpetrators of cyber threats and attacks. And this was against organisations rather than individuals. And this could be up to government level. So it was quite big jobs that we were looking at. My 2.5 years there, I spent quite a considerable amount of time dealing with a blackmail against Apple, where I'm allowed to talk about it because it was in the press. He's been prosecuted, where he basically managed to amass a huge database of Apple usernames and passwords, and was trying to crack into lots of accounts and was trying to hold or basically blackmail Apple into giving him some money, and then he wouldn't hack these accounts. Then in 2019, I joined Peabody as the Information Security Officer. And how I got this role was I had a LinkedIn profile, and the person who was the current Information Security Manager at Peabody saw my LinkedIn profile, thought that I'd be ideal for the role of an Information Security Officer at Peabody, sent me a copy of the job description. I quite liked the look of it, and here I am, still here 2.5 years later. What I will say about cybercrime, for me, it was like learning a new language. There's so many acronyms, it really is, and like phishing, smishing, bishing, a lot of it doesn't really roll off the tongue very well. But for me, I find it was also very procedure driven, very much like my previous roles were in the British Transport Police and the NCA. Everything that you do when you're a detective and when I'm investigating a breach at Peabody, I have to follow steps in a logical order to ensure that every box is ticked, that every avenue has been looked at. So that's how obviously how my previous manager found that maybe I would be good for the role from my previous experience. So my role at Peabody, I investigate breaches that are reported. So this could be anything from I've dealt with email accounts trying to be hacked, with information being sent out to people that it shouldn't have been sent out to, and it could be sensitive information, to a third party suffering a severe breach which involves our data. So my job is to investigate these along with the data protection officer, and if necessary, report them to the Information Commissioner's Office. I do lots of presentations to colleagues on cybersecurity. So this will include password security, multi-factor authentication, where to go to for advice. And I agree with Ross, the National Cybersecurity Centre is where I get a huge amount of my information. Also, which currently have a thing you can sign up to where it will tell you what the latest scams are. That I find brilliant. I don't rewrite everything. I just copy and paste it, put it out to the colleagues at Peabody. It's a really, really good source of information about what the latest scams are. I also monitor emails that are coming in for phishing attacks. We've had quite a few this week. I've been very busy trying to get rid of them out of our system. I then contact everybody, make sure they're not putting their password into links that they shouldn't be. And all of these phishing attacks that we see in Peabody are quite often from third parties that we trust. They have their account hacked, emails get sent out to everybody in their address book, and it's somebody you maybe expect to get an email from. You're maybe not expecting to receive a link to some documents. So my advice when it comes to phishing is, if it's an email with a link and you're just not expecting it, just give the person a call and say, is this really meant for me? Am I supposed to click on this link? Don't email them, because if the hacker's got their email account, all you're doing is emailing the hacker. So always pick the phone up and just check. I conduct system reviews to highlight any security risks, which I then write reports that go to senior management for them to either say, yep, we need to do something to reduce these risks, or they just say, we need to have this system the way it is, we'll leave the system here. Review, amend, create policies, and deal with any day-to-day queries. So I think the essential skills for an information security officer, I am from the very much the non-technical side. I'm learning more and more technical things as I go along, but for me it's very much around the awareness training rather than the actual day-to-day technical skills. So for me, you have to have the ability to multitask. You need to be resilient and flexible. So yesterday I was in the middle of writing a report, then I realized that we had 300 phishing emails in our system. I had to leave that report, get rid of these phishing emails, then go back to the report. Flexibility really is key. Good presentation skills, and this is verbal and written, report writing, and not have any fear of asking questions. But for me, I came into information security with absolutely no experience of information security. Yes, I worked at the National Cyber Crime Unit, but that only gives you so much. So for me, on-the-job learning has been essential. And if you do go into information security, no good employer will expect you to know what you're doing from day one. You should always be buddied up with somebody that knows what they're doing. You can observe from somebody to learn from, and then go on any relevant courses as well. I actually, it's for me, obviously it's not as exciting as being a police officer, but I left that for good reasons. But every day for me is different. I'm dealing with something different all the time, which really does keep my interest up. So yeah, if anybody's thinking about becoming an information security officer, I recommend it. And that's the end of my presentation.
Brilliant. Thank you, Marie. Thank you so much for that. And I mean, it's interesting, like you say, you know, you've got to multitask. If you're going to be security information officer, then you've got to multitask. You've got to try and do different things, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Absolutely, throw it out there, you know. Right, okay, I know time is ticking on, and so I do want to put some questions. We know George has left, but Nadia will put questions to George and get things back to you but we do have Ross and Marie still here. So I'm going to open it up to the floor. We're going to take 5 questions before we wrap up this meeting. So if anybody wants to ask any questions, please unmute yourself, say who you are, and ask your question.
Hello, sorry, my name is Cindy. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Cindy.
Good. I do have one question, and it's something that came up and made me think. I've got to fill in forms. It's like an online form for courses, adult education and so on, and they want various information to be emailed across. And I'm concerned because it's about data protection. Emailing is not sending all my stuff that's got all my information, personal information, I don't think is the best way of sending the information. What can I ask, or what should the other company do to make sure my information is secure?
Brilliant. Thank you, Cindy. Who wants to take that out of Marie or Ross?
I think it's a great question, to be honest, Cindy. I guess, sorry, my first point would be, is there an alternative way that you could send that using a more secure method where things could be encrypted?
Right. Okay.
I think it'd be worth posing that question, because I do understand your concern. If you're sending sensitive information via email, if something's intercepted, then that could cause you problems. So I'd ask them that question, and also when they receive the information, if you're concerned at all, ask them what they're doing in order to protect it and retain the information.
Okay. Because I can't be the only one to have this issue, or maybe they don't think of it, because they're asking for passport information, national insurance. Only takes one person to forward that information on, and they become me. So yeah, and then I think, well, okay, well, maybe they're not taking the data, is it protection or security, seriously.
Absolutely. Marie, do you have anything to add to that for Cindy before we move
For
on?
this kind of data collection, depending on the size of the organisation, you would think that they would have a form that you could fill in, a protected, secure form. If they're asking it by email, I'm going to assume they don't have that in place, but it may be worth asking if there is a form that can be filled in online, making sure it's a secure online session rather than sending it by email if you're uncomfortable with that.
Okay. Thank
Brilliant.
you.
I hope that answers your question,
Yep.
Cindy. Thank you. Thank you for
thanks.
asking the question. Ahmad.
Sorry, I'm sitting in a coffee shop. I hope the noise around me is not going to be disturbing, but it's the only place I can sit there quietly. So basically, my question is to Ross. I'm a Barclays account customer, and in the past, I've basically received a text message, and the number it came from is exactly the same number that Barclays send me text messages to. And then they said to me, your purchase for Apple did not go through of 1,500. Contact us now. Or somebody tried to use your card to make a purchase, want to confirm it's you. But the number was exactly the number from Barclays, like the 0300, I think it was number. And I received messages from that number before from Barclays. Because I'm quite alert, so I decided to, the person called me, or I called the number and I said to them, basically, I'm a Barclays customer, what's happening? And he said to me, somebody tried to take money from you, so we need you to confirm such and such and such. And I said, basically, I kind of tricked him, and I found out basically it was a fake thing. I just wanted to know, how did they manage to send the text message and it came from the same number that I normally receive messages from?
Yeah, unfortunately, they're able to spoof. If they have the right software, they can spoof the actual number where the messages come from. So that actually would have been sent from a completely different number. When you receive it, the message will look like it's part of your existing thread of messages, your messages you have received from Barclays. There is work being done in order to, with the telecommunications companies, to try and prevent people from being able to do this. But the best thing you can do, and that you did do, is question it there's so many people who would receive that message without the awareness. They would probably respond to the message and start having dialogue, whether it be just through text message or calling the telephone number. So you're right to question, I think, is the key point, and a lot of people wouldn't, and that's where they fall into the trap.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Anyone else would like to ask a quick question? I've got 2 questions that people have sent in to me. So one more for the audience. Anyone up there?
Can I ask one more question?
Or only if it's quick. We know what you're like because you're in that coffee shop. If
And
you're
I'm
quick,
very-
very quick.
I'm a very talkative person as well, so you have
That's
to
all right.
control me.
So am I. That's all right.
I know this again. The question to Ross and to Marie: does any organization in Barclays or Peabody offer like a volunteer program where somebody like myself can come in and basically contribute my time and basically try and step into the ladder to get a bit of experience of how things work, and while I'm doing my exams for Cisco, for example?
Fabulous question. I like that.
Everybody does have a volunteer section, but they, because of the data that we deal with, you wouldn't be able to come and volunteer with the information security team, but you could come and volunteer at Peabody and get some understanding of Peabody, the organisation, how we operate. But yeah, because of the kind of privileges you would need to the systems to assist information security, that's not something we could offer.
I think
have a question real quick.
Sorry, Matt, I was just going to say very similar answer from me. To be honest, I would just say, have a look at the apprenticeships. That can be an ideal opportunity if you're interested in going down that route. But apprenticeships are far more common now and a good route into an organisation. But yeah, you may struggle in terms of, as Marie says, some of the information that you'd have access to.
Brilliant. Thank you both. One last question. Best password keepers on an app, what is it?
So I don't recommend one because I don't want to be shocked when that gets breached and everybody loses their password. So I always say, Google top 5 passwords in the UK and pick which one suits you. But yeah, I never plug a password manager because I don't want to be held responsible if it all goes horribly wrong.
Absolutely. Ross, same?
Yeah, I'm not stealing Marie's answer, but that has to be the answer. You know, at the end of the day, anyone potentially could be hacked, but I think the main point is don't rely on writing down all those various passwords we're saying that you need to have, because that still leaves you vulnerable. Use a trusted password manager. Go to a source. Like Marie says, you can Google it, but we'll all know of trusted, sources we can use where they carry out reviews on such things such as passwords and various other things. I think you probably know the organisation I'm talking about. But yeah, certainly use one as opposed to not use one.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We're going to end the session here, but I would like to put a round of applause to Ross and Marie. Thank you very, very much. Really, really good information there. Please take this information back. Anything you need to know, please send Nadia an email and she will get things out to Ross or Marie. Nadia, I'm going to hand over to you to do the very, very last quick wash up before we end the session.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Ross, and everyone attending. You will receive an email with the guest speakers' presentations and any links or resources that they've mentioned. So look out for the email. And the next hot topic session will be on Wednesday, the 16th of March, and we will be talking about digital entertainment as a sector. So, jobs in the video games industry and whatsoever. So you will again receive information on how to register and attend that session. That's it. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a lovely evening.
Brilliant. Take care, all. Thank you very much. See you all soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.